Do you feel lost, jaded, and confused? Has it ever seemed to you that things seem meaningless and previous joys just don't seem to interest you as much? What if I told you that in their quest for total power and control, a secret cabal of elites incapable of feeling human emotions throughout the years have successfully created a system that more and more is pushing society from the world we know to a place we would never have accepted if we weren't slowly forced into it. Even though we weren't perfect as a civilization, we lived in harmony with our humanity. There is something eerie and mysterious going on. You can feel it. You can see the telltale signs all over, but no one says anything. We try to ignore it and move on. As humans, our greatest strength has always rested in our ability to cope and adapt to changes. But can we really stand aside and allow what is happening to just go unnoticed? We are being controlled, manipulated, miseducated. No matter where in the world you are, you can feel the same force weighing you down. My message may not be noticed for long, so I encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this responsibly. Not everyone is your ally. Some are not even human. But that's a discussion for another time. We are going to discuss the different changes that these unseen forces have led our society through. Culture, in its most basic meaning, is the way of life or lifestyle of a group of people. Our world is filled with thousands of different cultures. There is a Scandinavian culture, you have Asianic cultures and subcultures, spanning from China to India. There is a European, African, and South American cultures. The Caribbean is also filled with their own unique culture. Within all of these cultures, you have a blast of different foods, clothing, and beliefs that were held very dearly and revered by those within that culture. Culture glues communities together. People with a rich cultural heritage feel proud, happy, and have a deep sense of patriotism. Think of a cultural activity that has or had deep historical, emotional, or spiritual significance to you. Maybe it's Memorial Day or Thanksgiving. Think of how those soldiers sacrificed their lives in the name of freedom, or how families give thanks by cooking those mouth-watering foods that had their roots in pilgrim diets. You have your stuffed or roasted turkey painted with honey with loads of heavenly mashed potatoes with gravy, stuffing, sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, and sweet corn. You probably enjoy the food without giving much thought to the pilgrims and how important it was to them to give thanks for the harvest, for good tidings, and life itself. There is something magical, a childlike wonder, a feeling which cannot be put into words that you experience when you do something that has deep meaning to you and those around you. When you celebrate and partake in festivities, reveling in the understandings of the pure and genuine reasons in which that festivity is done, it brings about such a happiness and joy that is unmatched. Think of Christmas in the days of old, when it was not just families locking themselves inside to share gifts and eat Christmas delicacies, but rather the church bell would ring and all over there would be Christmas lights and decorations. not put up in the aim of showing off on your neighbor, which kills the Christmas spirit, as you then are celebrating for the wrong reasons, and then it becomes a chore to put up decorations. But rather, everyone did it to encapsulate the merriness and joy that those lights and decorations would help to foster. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, the baker, the farmer, everyone would then come together and join to go whistling, stopping door to door to bring others good cheer, share in their delights, and have a fun time. The Christmas carols were unspoiled and were filled with messages of good cheer, love, food, and celebrating the reason for the season, which is the birth of Christ. As time went on, these practices became watered down, and we live in such a state of fear and constant anxiety and distrust that we don't even know our own neighbors. The Christmas music became trash, with more emphasis on romance and sensuality than giving good cheer and remembering the birth of Christ. O society, how far have we gone from humanity? It is also interesting to note that many of those bedtime stories and classic tales, like Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Pinocchio, and all of those Disney favorites that used to cast a magic spell over us, were high in morality, had positive messages, or had Christian undertones. This then leads us into the topic of religion. Now, religion and spirituality both play a big part in our happiness and fulfillment as human beings. One of the most painful roads that there is to traverse is that of an atheist. To live with the credence that there is no God is not easy, especially when you come from a deeply religious family background. To have no hope, no all-powerful, all-knowing being that is greater than your personal problems and has a higher calling or purpose for your life is soul crushing. It is from here that teachings of nihilism and existentialism are taught. These try to help you cope with living a life of no purpose or direction, and help you create tasks or purposes for your own life. This is simply a cope and can never fill the gap that religion can fill. Religion gives people something to believe in, provides a sense of structure and order. It also brings people together in more ways than one. It gives us our sense of humanity. We are social creatures after all, and anything that bonds us together and creates a sense of belonging, that is much more meaningful than a mere sports team or book club. When a society holds a religion in high regards, we obtain a more safe, trustworthy society. It is impossible to love without trust. How can you have a society that you can feel comfortable living in, as well as rearing offspring in where there is an air of distrust, anxiety, hatred, and paranoia? It may be hard to do, but couples that have relationship issues that threaten trust soon dissolve. Love and trust go hand in hand. One of the greatest strengths of religion and the most painful predicament for atheists is that of difficult life situations, such as the death of a loved one or heavy losses or setbacks. To know that you lost someone there shakes you to your very core and can easily let you fail into depression or alcoholism. You can easily become suicidal, not knowing where to turn for emotional support or comfort. Not believing in God and living, just living, is tough, but you feel the burns much more smartly in times of hardship and loss. Even those who have a religion feel the cold hands of reality and life in these times too, but it's different. They have a hope that guides them in times of darkness, a rock to stand on in times of weakness, and can find it much easier in letting go, knowing that they are not alone and everything is going to be alright. Religion adds deep meaning to holidays and other special times of the year. All of these in conjunction make life so much more interesting, rich and full. Not all religions are viewed as peaceful, but they all share common teachings and guidelines that encourage love, truth, forgiveness, compassion, and gratitude. These all promote our humanity. Now we are going to look at the last item in our discussion, the family. Everyone may have different views on the family makeup, but needless to say, we all agree that the family should be the most important unit in our society. Whenever a group becomes too large, individuals do not get the specific nurturing that they need, as each one of us is different from one another. Our world is made up of groups. Whenever they become too large, they break up into smaller fragments. Nothing is wrong with groups being broken up as long as they all share similar ideologies and beliefs. The most important unit from which all of these larger groups are made is the family. The family has been the target of these forces for centuries. One of the tricks that the elite cabal use in efforts to erode the family and make the society more individualistic was to lure families from the countries to clustered up cities with promises of more surveillance, which would mean more security and less crimes as well, as spread the propaganda of freedom, inverting the truth and making us believe that we could live in the city and become rich, preying on our natural instincts to gather as much resources to attract females, or for women to go to these cities and find suitable mates or job opportunities. They wrap the lie of country living to represent backward thinking and poverty around the minds of many young people who forsook their families and went to these cities in the hope of betterment. What they ended up doing was destroying their lives, as all the city had for them was a boring 9-to-5 job that sucked the life out of them. Polluted air and unhealthy food that cut their life expectancy in half, as well as led them into indulging into sexual liberation. This was then taught to these city folk over and over again through subliminal messages as well as certain movements, which did more harm than good. Eventually, the young people decided to have the children of their own. Meanwhile, the forces continued in their quest for world domination and full control. They could not rest until society was fully under their grasp, so slowly they spread more doctrines and lies. These things corrupted the families that dwell in the cities. Consumerism became a fashion. Monogamy became bold. Slowly they tore to shreds the fabric of society. It's reached to the point where men and women distrust one another, and there is a constant fight for power. Homosexuality reached pandemic proportions, further eroding the family. Now less and less people desire procreation or marriage. The children then grow up seeing their parents constantly fight and argue. They saw mom and dad say goodbye, leaving them handicapped and more susceptible to outside influences. With families breaking apart, children growing up with no respect and proper training, the seeds of corruption had now fully yielded the kinds of crops that they were seeking. The family was now in ruins. They could now control the masses more easily. It is only our humanity that leads us to still seek marriage and procreation, even in the face of all those adversities. Men have it especially more difficult, as they are subject to so many more disasters that can affect them in the dating and relationship arena. It has reached to the point that some men choose to go their own way, living the type of life that they want, as well as women becoming feminists and some swearing off relationships with a man completely. These things further complicate a natural human desire to be loved and to have a family. All of these things happen with the grandparents confused as to what caused their grandchildren to be in the dilemma that they are in. They weren't used to having to suffer alone. Most families in the pre-industrial era were relatively large to our nuclear and single-parent family trend that we have today. To even think that one parent can fully nurture and raise a child when it takes a village is lunacy. Families used to be more extended in nature. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and siblings, all living together or in extremely close proximities. It is here that you learn cooperation, self-sacrifice, hard work, and responsibility. This also teaches to respect and care for others in spite of sicknesses or differences, physical or otherwise. These families also have strong connections between generations. This provides for the passing down of tradition, skill sets, and answers to the questions of who am I and where am I, as well as where do I belong. These questions may seem trivial, but are at the source of our general depression that we suffer so greatly today. There are so many more things to discuss that would make our time here today more longer than I had initially planned for it to be. Be aware of these things and feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. But know this, we are in a very serious time where the decisions that we make right now can dictate the future of the world and our children. If we stand aside and allow these people to slowly take our rights and freedoms away, we will be left in an Orwellian society of total dictatorship and no freedom. We will live like animals in our own cages, never truly finding or understanding freedom, sovereignty, or love. They have destroyed the family, the basis and backbone of the rest of society. We now are filled with corrupt citizens, solely focused on self-gain, filled with hatred, fear, anxiety, and depression. They work under the same forces that enslaved them a long time ago, carrying out their agendas and wills without question, truly convinced that their will is their own. Is this the type of world that you envision for your kids? Is this the type of world that you want to see? No one has power over you. You give them that right. We need to come together more as a people and stand up to those who are trying to enslave us. As a fellow psychonaut philosopher, the use of mushrooms and other medicines helped me to become more aware of my humanity. As I first encountered ego dissolution and felt my spirit connect with others in a kind of raw, animalistic state, it became apparent to me how much we take for granted and how much of our humanity we have lost as a race. We were never perfect, sometimes misguided, sometimes led astray by our own impulses and desires. But one thing that stands assured is that we always had our humanity. My life's work now is to help save as many as I possibly can from losing themselves before it's too late. The time already is short, and observable reality shows glimpses of darker times than we may have ever known, just in a new packaging. You know what I'm saying is right, because to be honest, you feel it too. But knowing is only half the battle. We'll speak next time. Goodbye.